When did you realize your friends were actually fake friends?
Finding out they have an inner circle group chat, but I'm the only one not in it.
When my phone got stolen and I lost their phone numbers. Mine stayed the same, but we just never talked again.
I was invited to the bachelorette party for one of the friends in this group. While at the party, I figured out that I was the only person not invited to the wedding. I had been invited to the party because they needed another person to chip in for expenses.
One friend stopped replying to my texts right after we graduated from college. Like the same week we graduated. So, I was pretty much just a study buddy that they kept close to keep me helping them.
I wouldn't say I have fake friends, but I am definitely the periphery friend. The majority of the time, if there isn't enough tickets or space in the car for everyone to go do something, I'm the one who gets cut out. It doesn't bother me much, but I wish they would be more mindful when talking to me about things we have done. Remember when we went to see XXX? Wasn't that fun? Well, no, because I wasn't invited. In those situations it usually gets awkward, or they say, hey, we would have invited you if we had the tickets, space, etc.
After my divorce, we were couples friends, not individually.
This was quite a few years ago. My ex and I were really friendly with another couple. Did a ton of stuff together. Then they moved, not far, and fairly shortly after my ex and I separated. They hung out with me for a few months but then stopped calling. A few years later, I ran into both of them at a race, an ultramarathon, and they both pretended like they didn't know me. That was actually a really painful moment.
The group made plans to meet and hang out. I was getting ready in the salon. A couple of friends had to back out for some reason. The other friend then made excuses of his own, and I could tell. I tried cajoling him and offer ways for him to go, but he basically decided to cancel the entire group meetup. It was my birthday.
When they stopped contacting me when I stopped drinking.
When I realized I was the one always calling. Then I stopped and friends disappeared.
Once high school ended, I heard about all the rumors they made up about me.
Whenever we were supposed to hang out, something came up and that something was hanging out with other mutual friends.
I stopped smoking weed and they stopped coming round.
When I went through a divorce and was down to $700. Most difficult period, and weeded out all those who friended me for my generosity because I was well settled. Started over and have like 2 true good friends.
Like I suspect for a lot of people, getting divorced was a real eye-opener. I started with a core group of close friends who had all met in our late teens, early 20s, and one of them introduced me to the woman who I would ultimately marry. Well into our 40s they were what I considered to be my family, but when the divorce happened things spiraled. My best friend stuck with me, but his wife was the one who orchestrated things in our group, and she was best friends with my ex. I was expecting the two of them to insulate for a while, and I knew it was painful for my ex to be around me, so it was no surprise when I stopped getting invitations to cookouts etc. But then I noticed that the other members of the group were also ignoring me. I'd see on Facebook that one of them came into my town to go to a concert for a band that they knew I liked and hadn't so much as texted. Birthdays rolled around and nobody would call. When my parents both died within a few months of each other and not a one of them reached out, I knew where I stood. My best friend needs to get credit though. Alone from all of them, he made a consistent effort to stay in touch and see me regularly. He was there when my parents died and through everything else, even though his wife clearly disapproved. I think finally, after this nonsense had been going on for several years, he told her how ridiculous it all seemed and that entire friend group tried to reconcile. I made it clear right from the start that there was no guarantee that I'd ever find space for them in my life again. This is all very apropos right now because they are having their first big post-COVID party in a couple weeks and I'm invited. People are coming in from all over the country and the only one I give a crap about seeing is my buddy.
When I was in school, all my friends and I did different levels. Despite us all having different lessons to each other, they would wait for each other to go to lunch together, but they would always forget me. Like I'd come out and they wouldn't be there, so I'd have lunch by myself. And then they'd come back and tell me they thought I was with them. I was the only one they didn't wait for. I've only seen one of them since we left school. She had forgotten my name. So that sucked.
When you try to open up and try to share a genuine conversation about something going on in your life and all they can do is crack jokes and try to get you to go out drinking with them. Made me realize how surface level many friendships really are. Then you have the opposite of that. 3 guys I've known since I was a freshman in high school. Been friends for over 15 years. Have stayed in touch through all of us getting married, having kids, and moving to completely separate areas or the country. Yet whenever we're within an hour of each other, we always make a point to get breakfast and catch up. This usually turns into 3+ hour conversations. This may only happen once or twice a year, but I consider those guys my best friends. That's real friendship and I'm fortunate to have them.
My friends from high school all unfollowed me when I graduated college. I'm the only one who no longer lives in our hometown.
This friend, I'll call her Mary, had kids the same age as mine. We got together for play dates pretty often and our kids would sleep over at each other's houses for weekends. I liked Mary. We would often visit and talk while our kids were playing. One weekend, her kids had stayed at my house. The older one called her mom to see when she was coming to pick her up. I was in the room, and the kid put the phone on speaker for some reason. Mary told the kid what time she would be there and added, "You had better be waiting outside. If I have to go in and spend the next hour talking to Rivertam, I'm going to be really pissed." We didn't spend much time together after that.
I was at a party, really depressed after a bad breakup and got drunk. My abusive ex showed up, caught me somewhere alone and hit me. I begged several friends for help since I was too drunk to drive home alone and they ignored me. My ex-best friend was there, completely sober, and refused to drive home with me because she didn't believe he would do that. There's no Uber or anything in my country, by the way. The whole thing escalated. One guy the first didn't know ended up finding me alone in a field crying and throwing up, brought me back to the house, built a bed out of blankets for me and sat guard all night to make sure my ex wouldn't do anything again.
When I traded in my truck for a smaller, more eco-friendly vehicle. Communication plummeted now that I can't haul furniture around, assist with moving as much, dispose of garbage, etc.
I flew out to support a friend going through a messy divorce. While I was there, she left me in the apartment to meet up with her boyfriend that I didn't know about. He turned out to have just been released from prison for manslaughter. Once she told me that, I told her that I didn't want to spend time with him, especially considering the circumstances of my visit. The next night, I woke up in the middle of the night to find him in the living room. She said that she thought it wouldn't matter since I was asleep. The next day, she invited her soon-to-be ex-husband over without telling me and then asked me to meditate their conversation once he got there. That conversation turned ugly fast, and she ended up storming out. He broke down and asked if I thought it was salvageable, and I told him that she had already moved on. Maybe not the best idea on my part, but at that point, she had shown me how vile of a person she is.
When I was babysitting her kids, things were going great. We would hang out all the time, have movie nights and just talk and chill. But the second she no longer needed a babysitter was the second I got kicked to the curb. No explanation. Not even a text back. Some people will act like your best friend until they no longer need you. Their loss though.
Shortly realized after quitting cocaine that a majority of my friends only kept me around so they could feel better about their own cocaine habits. I was heavily addicted and setting myself down a path I never once thought I could or would take. Stopped for my own benefit and health, and was treated like a selfish piece of crap for doing so. The next months ensued and not one of them checked in to see how I was doing, but instead my high school best friend started sleeping with my ex-high school girlfriend. I was with her for 5 years and actually thought I was going to marry her at one point, who dumped me for doing cocaine and is now an honorary member of the group I was cast out of. Replaced with the person who partially fueled my substance abuse, who dumped me for substance abuse, by the group that didn't like me stopping my substance abuse, so they could all abuse substances together. It's now been over a year since I quit, and honestly couldn't be happier. Got rid of a cocaine addiction and about 1,000 pounds of dead weight. But it was an eye-opener to say the least.
When I slowly realized I was only around for chores and errands. Rides to the airport, pick up furniture, help move. Anything social always resulted in either last-minute cancellations, showing up 45 minutes late and bolting after 10 minutes. I thought they were busy, but no.
For me, it was when I got in some deep trouble and they all just cast me aside without even giving it a second thought. I realized this when I invited all of them to go to the movies with me and they all said they couldn't go. I then found out through one of them that they went to see that movie the same day, and when I asked then why they didn't tell me they were going, they said, "We just wanted to go together." Crap, broke my heart.
Back in my first year of college, I used to have a group of friends, like 7 dudes with me included. We always hang out together and we're used to have this group chat, where we discuss about anything from class subjects to random things. After a year, I noticed that one of the guys, let's just call him Randy, keeps getting excluded, not invited, informed to group hangout while they're talking smack behind his back. And the unofficial leader of the group actually made a whole new group chat, inviting everyone, myself included, except Randy, without his knowledge. I know what it feels to be left out. I experienced that in middle school and it's really awful. I stopped hanging out with them and I starts hanging out with Randy. He's quite eccentric but a very good person at heart. We've been friends for more than 6 years, and he still got my back.
A lot of so-called friends aren't real friends. They're more like acquaintances, people you know and are civil with. There's at least one that is fake, though. He or she has you in their life solely to benefit from. It can be financially, it can be emotionally. It can just be because he or she thrives on your failures. Some people keep you around as something to gawk at. Harsh but true.
When I realized literally just being in the same room as that person made me miserable. It's because the person was extremely self-conscious, to the point that they would overcompensate by putting others down, every little chance they had, to make themselves feel above. I kept wondering why they would keep throwing me under the bus for no reason. Like we had been friends for years, why would they treat me like this? It took me years to figure out exactly how bad of a friend they were, no matter how hard they pretend not to be. It took me an entire year of ghosting to stop being friends with that person, because they loved putting me down so much they wouldn't stop calling me, texting me, trying to contact me for a year with no responses because they could not understand how someone could possibly want to stop hanging out with them because they are so perfect.
When I broke up with my long-term boyfriend, the guy the first thought had been my best friend of 3 years gave me 2 weeks before saying, "Is it my turn, yet?" Freaking garbage.
Went to pick up my Xbox 360 a friend was borrowing, and our whole group of friends were there. They had spent the entire day playing games with snacks and pizza, and I had not been invited. And now I was in the situation of being the douche who takes the ball home and ruins the fun for everyone. I took my Xbox and never spoke to anyone in that group again.
When I got sober, 7 months today.
When they abandoned me when I was going through a rough time. When I spent years listening and supporting them. When I have my first true moment where I am not coping and need support, they are nowhere to be seen and beaching behind my back. This is when I realized my high school friends never had grown up past high school. Luckily I had other friends. Just not a large girl group like that. But I can actually say that every friend I have, I know they have my back and won't judge me if I am not always happy. And the same for me. I have always had very high expectations of myself as a friend, and I feel that everyone I call a friend is someone that brings something special to my life. That is worth more than having a huge group of beachy girlfriends who turn on each other when they are out of the room. It took me a long time to realize it though.
One friend at university tried to steal my animation coursework, claim it as his own and get me kicked out for stealing his work. However, I had help setting things up by one of my tutors, professors, for me to film the coursework, so he instead got expelled and blacklisted from the university and any other university in the UK doing the same subject. The people running all the animation degrees in every university in the UK, back then, knew each other and talked to each other regularly as it a small community. I think there were less than half a dozen universities with animation degrees back then. This was 20-ish years ago now. Edit, grammar and spelling.
When my longtime friend called me and said, "Hey, can you hang out? No one else can."
Vex and stuff, for me it was like it was for Stratobits. Only I didn't go bankrupt. I intervened, 3 guys assaulting 1 guy. Long story short, guy the first stopped to help leaves and the 3 guys assault me. A couple of collapsed lungs, many broken bones, a pneumohemothorax, brain damage, frothing pink from the mouth because my lungs were full of blood, and a couple of heart stops later mixed with cognitive issues. I lost my house, job, savings, 401k, every single thing I owned but a car. I wasn't good enough for my sister, and all but 5 of my closest friends. My wife stayed with me through it all, and without her I would never made it. My remaining friends gave me hundreds of dollars, a registered and insured van, a new job, restored faith in humanity, and the support I needed to pick myself back up. All because of money. It taught me a very valuable lesson about people. You learn who is behind the curtain.
When you lose your worth to them. For instance, you are going through a dark period in your life, then they just leave like you are a worthless bag of dust.
When I went bankrupt.
When they didn't wait for me whilst I did my shoelaces.
This is a good post because it has the potential to help a lot of people. In college I remember hanging out with a group of people like the ones on this thread. They were also my roommates for 3 years. Every year, we'd throw a fun party for everyone's birthday but mine. They didn't even know when mine was. After I graduated and looked back on it, I realized they were never my friends. I don't even hear from them anymore. I spent 4 years socializing with the wrong people, and if I had just hung out with the people that I had led to believe were nerds, or annoying, or who I had more things in common with, I would likely have had a much more fun time in undergrad. Good thing I have much better friends than just the ones I made back then.
When they walked past me crying and pretended I didn't exist.
When I realized that Discord bot is a bot.
Middle school. I hung out with a group who treated me like dog crap. I was always the one getting made fun of, the group punching bag, that sort of thing. I hung out with them because they were the only friends I had. Then I woke up one day and realized they all sucked. So at lunch I went up to them, told them they were all D-heads. I got laughed at, but I went and sat alone. I was alone all the way until junior year of high school when I told my parents that the big city wasn't for me. So my amazing parents sacrificed everything and moved up to Montana. I showed up to a small school and didn't know a soul. I decided to join the football team. That was the best choice I ever made. I met all new friends, who I'm still friends with 15 years later.
After graduating high school, then once again after graduating college. I think graduation is the ultimate test of true friends versus the people who were drinking buddies or people you hung out with because you all disliked the same cliques.
For anyone who's quite young reading this, or just leaving college, don't confuse fake friends for people becoming adults. It's extremely normal for adults to lose touch with older, close friends due to life circumstances, children, distance, work, etc. That doesn't mean they're fake friends, it just means they have higher priorities than hanging out, chatting than they used to. You'll often find those fake friends are happy to see you when either they or you make it easy, convenient. That may be frustrating, but it's a normal part of growing up and likely something you'll do too. P.S. The post-college bit is the most jarring because everyone becomes an adult at a different pace. So people drop off, and if you're not ready yet, it can seem like people are dropping you as a friend. Just make it easy for them and you'll very likely pick things up right where they left off.
When my best friend became close with the guy who abused me for 2 years. She knew everything, and still formed that friendship anyway, and when confronted about it, she said he was a nice guy who was misunderstood, that my abuse never happened, and that my other friend, who had integrity and reached out to me with screenshots when he attempted to contact her, was making him look bad. She threw away a 4-year friendship in that moment. She was also sending him screenshots of our private conversations and updating him about me when he has a new girlfriend.
When I returned to work after being off for 3 months due to an injury, and I practically begged him to go grab a beer and do pub trivia, but all 3 of them passed because they had plans. Well, it turns out their plans were to go grab a beer and do pub trivia. Without me. Found out through social media. Deleted it shortly afterwards. I've been a lot less depressed about things since I've deleted social media and stopped looking at them as friends and just as work acquaintances. It took that for me to realize that the friendships were really one-sided, and I'm better off not pursuing anything other than being cordial at work.
My friends made a Facebook account for a fake girl who was transferring to our school and full-on catfished me, only revealing it was a scam when I arrived at a movie theater to meet her. Was I dumb? Yes. Were they crappy? Undoubtedly.
My best friend of 10 years called on my wedding day to say she couldn't make it because she was just so sad about her recent divorce. Turns out, she just had a date. Our whole friendship was fake. It just took me to that point to realize it.
On this note, if anybody wants a new friend, hit me up.
My so-called friends invited me to a party, and then at the last moment, they texted the group that no one's coming and the party is cancelled. Well, they had the party that day. Everyone went there. They just had decided they didn't want me there cause I was boring and not a fun person, so they told me that there was no party happening. It hurt a lot. It was a terrible day for me.
Fake friends is a phenomenon that evaporates in the adult world and is replaced by toxic relationships. Being jammed together with people in the same school or church or dorm means that you're connected together. You can be taken advantage of, ignored at a whim, or abused, and have to constantly interact with the people who would do it simply by being in the same space day after day. In the adult world, it's easier to cut people out of your life or lay the ground rules for your relationships. Toxic relationships form out of codependency or some other factor that makes you feel trapped. But people that you make friends with that drift apart with time is just the natural ebb and flow of life.